Hello everyone, welcome back to Crafts by the Bow. This is actually the second time I've made this card. I was nearly at the end of it last time and then the doorbell rang. So if the doorbell rings again this time, I'm just going to carry on. So this is the card I want to make with you today, and it's a card that I saw Ronda Wade make in our Creating Success team group, and it's a nice little fold with a belly band. So I like how that works because you see two pieces of DSP. Now usually I use two matching pieces of DSP coordinating from the same pack, but I really liked how this Petal Promenade paper matched with just the plain side of the paper in the Frosted Florals set, and I thought that looked, it wasn't sort of too busy. It didn't make your eye detract from the main event, which is this paper. And then it has this little belly band that if your recipient wants to stand the card up like this and have the belly band in front, they can, or they can put the belly band back on. And stand it up like that on a shelf or the mantelpiece. And then, as you know, at the moment I like to decorate my envelopes with DSP, so I've got a piece of the matching DSP just on the envelope to make it look like a nice little set. But today I'm going to use the paper that I'm showcasing this week, and it's the Share What You Love Artisan Designer Series paper, and it comes in a double pack, so you get 4 sheets of everything, and 4 of the designs have, I'm not sure if you can see that, but they have like a sheen or a pearlized finish, not to all of the paper, but just parts of the flowers. Where's my favourite one, that green one? This one, I love this. So it's just got that little sheen just on the flowers and just makes the paper pop. And this isn't a paper that's a thin DSP, it's thick like a cardstock. You can hear when I sort of fold it, it's thicker than most, and it makes the most amazing boxes and 3D items, because you don't need to make your box with a piece of card and then put DSP onto it. You can actually make it straight away with the DSP. And this is my second pack of it, and I'm contemplating getting another pack before the end of May, when the annual catalogue comes to an end. And I just love it. I've used it on so many things, so many sets. I've made cards as a one-piece wonder and then made a box out of a coordinating piece. It really is pretty. So let me show you what we need for Rhonda's card. I'm going to use Rich Razzleberry because that's the colour in here. And I could have used the crumb cake, but it didn't pop just as much as I wanted. I did actually cut a second set of paper because I couldn't decide if I was going to use these pieces that way around or if I was going to use these. But once I cut this first. Once I cut this, I knew this was the paper I was going to use. So you need 1 sheet of cardstock. Let me just get my trimmer, because you cut the card slightly differently to how we normally have a card cut. We normally cut all the way across the middle this way or all the way across the middle this way, but you need to cut it slightly differently. So what we're going to do is end up with a piece of card that's 11 by 5.5, and this is the 11-inch side that we know already, so we're going to cut on this side at 5.5. I'm just going to put it into the trimmer at 5.5 and cut right down. You do need this piece, so don't throw it away. Don't, put it in your scrap box right now, because you need it to cut a belly band with. Okay, and then we're going to score it. And we're going to score on the long side at 3 1/8. And I know some people have difficulties with these 8ths and 16ths and things. So I'm just going to remind you, here's the 3. The small line here is a 16th. And we don't need the 16th, we need the 8th, which is the next biggest line. So there's 3 1/8. So I'm just going to put it into here. Oh, I beg your pardon. It's 3 3/8. So don't score yet until I finish counting. So it's 3 1/8, 2/8, 3/8. It's going to be there. Okay, and so just with your score tool, go down the card, turn it round, and we're going to score at 3 3/8 again. 1, 2, 3/8. So it's the longest line just before the halfway mark. You should have one little 16th mark left in the middle. Okay, and while I've got the trimmer here with this card, this is the piece that we cut off, and we're going to cut a 1 inch by 11. This is the 11, so we're just going to put it in, and this time I'm just going to move it over to the 1 inch at this side. Cut down, and that's the piece we need for the belly band. Keep this piece for your scraps and for embellishments and things. It's a great size to cut out little flowers. You know, just keep these pieces because they are really valuable. Okay, now, let's show you the DSP while I'm here. This was cut at 3 1/8 by 5 1/4, and you'll see 3 1/8. It's that second line. First line is a 16th, second line is an 1/8. So it's cut at 3 1/8 by 5 1/4. And then let's pop that trimmer away. We don't need it anymore at the moment. Okay. See how we're doing for time. Oh, perfect. So what we need to do is to fold on the score lines of our card. This is the dipped part, the value part. So I'm just going to fold it over. I'm going to turn my card over and make sure that the edges meet. I'll just go down it with my bone folder. And then I'm going to do the same with the other side. Fold it in, make sure the edges meet. Now, notice that it doesn't go all the way to the edge here. You do have a 1 inch strip running down here, and that's how it's meant to be, because then when we open it, you get that little peak here, but it means that when it's closed, you get to see this piece of DSP that we're going to put on. Okay, so let me get my DSP ready. And I'm just going to attach it with my adhesive. I'm still using up my fast fuse, but you can attach it with anything. And we want it to go on this side. This is the top, so we need to make sure the pattern is running the right way. And when I have a piece of card that overlaps the same colour card, I find it quite hard to see where the edge is. So I'm just going to unfold it and use this as my nice clean edge to see where my paper needs to be and to make sure that I've got a nice border. Okay, that is just a nice little peak, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to do the same with the piece for the front. So I'm going to put my adhesive on. And then it needs to go on the front, but I'm just going to open it again so that I can see this clean edge here. Pop it that way around, I think. I don't think there is a right and a wrong way. I just wanted a little bit more of the flowers at the top before I put the belly band on. Okay, so there we are. That's how it's going to look from the front. Now, let's do our inside piece. You need to have a piece of white card. I always have lots of this size cut because I know it fits in a card. So whenever I'm using white card, I tend to cut a few more just ready for next time. So this is just our normal size of 5 1/4 by 4, and it's just going to go into the middle here. And what I decided to do, because the last card I made had a sentiment in from a paper pumpkin set, I'm going to use the Hostess set. Now this Hostess set is from the Occasions catalogue, and when you see it, it's right at the back of the book. This is the set, and I know it says it's shown at 50%, but I really didn't appreciate how big the stamps were. I thought, oh, that looks quite pretty. Yeah, I'll get that. I'll use that. And it was a fantastic choice, because when you actually see how big these are, I have stamped it already. Isn't that a great size? Fantastic for the inside of a card or for the outside of a card. You can cut it down. When I was playing about with the cards, I did have a piece that I cut down. So that could be, let's close this up. No, that could be your centerpiece and still be a great size. It's not one of these little stamp sets where you have to cut a bit out and then back it with a couple of layers to make it look a bit bigger. It's perfect on its own. Now, I'm just going to colour it in simply with my blends, and I'm choosing the colours from here. So I've got Old Olive, I've got the Rich Raspberry, and I've got Crumb Cake. And I'm not making any special colouring. I'm not doing anything fancy. I've got the light marker for the Rich Raspberry, and I'm just going to colour the flowers with this. I'm not going over bits to make shading or just anything special. I really just want it to be a pop of colour for when somebody opens the card. It really is simple colouring and simple stamping. Okay, so then I'm using the dark Old Olive. You could use different colours. You don't have to just use the one green. You could do these leaves a different colour. Ooh, went over the edges, but never mind, doesn't matter. And then for the pot, I'm using the light Crumb Cake. You could use terracotta sort of colour, like the Cajun Craze. You could make your pot whatever size you like, but I just wanted to coordinate with the paper today. You see, this is nothing special, my colouring, is it? just making lines. If you wanted to do something fancy, with the darker Crumb Cake, you could go all around the left-hand side, say, of the pot, so it made it look like it had a little bit more definition and it was a round pot. But really, you don't need to. One thing I do sometimes like to do is to use a grey marker and just sort of do a little bit of grey under here so it looks like there's a shadow. But for today, this is all I need. And sometimes I think we overcomplicate things for ourselves. I think sometimes just simple is much better. It looks pretty, it looks clean and fresh. Okay, so we've got the basis of the card made. Now we're going to work on that belly band. Put that set back. So here's our belly band that we cut. This was the 1 inch by 11 piece that we had. And I'm just going to lay it straight on my grid paper. Put this card over the top, just to keep my card straight. Because sometimes when I do this, I tend to have my belly band stuck a little bit wonky, or it's not quite how I wanted it. So I'm just going to fold it over, and I'm not going to make it tight because otherwise it's tricky to get the belly band off. I'm not going to use my bone folder and squash it down either. I'm just going to offer this side up as well. And I'm just going to make sure it's loose enough to move up and down. Yep, that would work. Okay, and then I'm just going to glue these two bits together. Try and get the join towards the middle. If you feel that you've got it too far over to the left, I haven't, but I'll just show you. If you had, I would just chop a little bit off because you've got a little bit of overlap on this. Just like that. And we're going to put something over here anyway. Now, when Rhonda made her card, the first one she made had a ribbon. And what she'd done, let me just get the ribbon to show you. Before she stuck the DSP on, she had her ribbon like that, and then let's just imagine this is the DSP that's going over, and then glued the DSP down, and then it came round here. Now, if you wanted to put DSP on the back to cover up the ribbon, you could do, but otherwise you just cut your ribbon off and then you can use it to keep the whole thing tied together. But for mine today, I wanted to use belly bands. Another day I probably will use ribbon, but it wasn't today. It wasn't your turn today, ribbon. Okay, so let's see which way I was going to glue that. I think it was that way. I'm going to put a little bit of Tombow on. I like Tombow for the way that it blends the two pieces together. It sort of catches the fibres and makes a much nicer join. Let's just put it over. I could probably have put a bit more glue over at this side, but it won't matter because I'm gluing something else over the top. Okay, so there's our belly band on our card. Then what I did was I took the Rooted in Nature set and I chose the You Are Wonderful stamp, and I stamped it and then I cut it out with one of our ovals and I did a scalloped oval, but instead of using the Rich Raspberry, I used the Blackberry Bliss just to give a little bit of contrast, just so that it popped out a little bit more. So that's going to glue onto here. Just going to put a little piece of glue right down the middle of this. Just make sure I get this sort of in the middle. That looks sort of in the middle to me. And then on the first one I made, I used, let me see, the Flourishing Phrases. I used the dies from them. And I put one of the dies on the front, and I actually glued the middle of it onto a little piece of pink card and then cut round the pink card because there isn't a die for just the plain blank at the bottom. And then I used one of these little sort of embellishments. I think it's meant to be like a little rose or something. And it came in that kit that we got, that's in the annual catalogue. Let me just get it and show you. It's the Share What You Love kit. Find embellishments. You would think I'd got this ready instead, wouldn't you, just to show you? Oh, I know, it's in the beginning of the embellishments, isn't it? Yeah, here we are. I was thinking it was towards the end of embellishments. But it was this Share What You Love embellishment kit. It came in this beautiful little box with the same paper on that I'm actually using. And inside, let's see, what did it have? Large labels, 4 small labels, 8 tranquil tied baker's twine, pearlized thread, silver adhesive backed roses, that's what they are, silver paper clips, Grapefruit Grove paper clips, and this beautiful box. I don't know what to do with this box. I wanted to put something in it for a friend and tie it up with a ribbon, but actually I wanted to keep it for myself. so I've still got that box. But that's what they're from. So they're little silver roses. You can see I've still got the paper clips in there as well. But this time I cut some more things out of the Flourishing Phrases. I cut a couple of the leaves. I did one of these little sprigs of something, this middle-sized flower, and some of the small flowers, because I didn't really know what I was going to use. So I just made an assortment. And then, so here are the leaves. I cut these in Mossy Meadow because I thought it was quite a nice green to go with that one. And I think what I'm going to do, I had to play with it earlier. I'm going to cut down one of these leaves and pop it just on this corner here so that it's not glued down everywhere. You could use a little glue dot on the back here. I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of Tombow. But a glue dot would work as well. And hold that down. And then I cut in the, I think this was Berry Burst scrap that I had. I cut some of the small flowers. I didn't have a flower that really matched this paper, and this was the best I could find that I had. I cut some in a pale pink. I cut another one in Blackberry Bliss. And what I went for was one of these little ones in the Berry Burst. And I put a tiny little bit of glue on the back and put it on a scrap, that I'd cut the scalloped piece out on the Blackberry Bliss. Just held it for a second. And then with my snips, I just cut round. And I find it easier when I'm cutting like this if I turn the paper with my left hand, and really my right hand doesn't do a lot of work. It only opens and closes the scissors. Seem to get a more fluid kind of cut that way. She says, hopefully. This will be the one time that it doesn't work. Okay, so there we are. And then I'm just going to attach this on here, and I'm going to just be mindful of where the writing is. So I just pop a little bit on the back. You could put it on with an embellishment if you wanted, but I know that this is going to go in the mail, and so I don't want it to be too thick. And that would be pretty with like a little pearl in the middle. I haven't got any on me just at the moment, I don't think. No, I haven't got them near me, but a little pearl in the middle would look pretty there too. You could put some on the other side. You could put some in the middle. Let's go back to the, oops. Let's go back to the middle. You could put some in here if you wanted. You could put some on this piece, sort of hidden. You could do another little flower, and then when they open that, it will be a surprise for them. But whatever you choose, it will look beautiful. There we go. And then last of all, I've got a little bit of this paper left over. I'm just going to put it onto my envelope. Now I don't even bother cutting the paper to size. The envelope flap is 2 1/4 wide, and I used to cut them exactly, but I've found it's much easier if I just put glue on, pop this card, the DSP up to the edge where the fold is, get my snips, and just go around. And that way, if I don't cut it quite to size at 2 1/4, it doesn't matter. Or if I haven't stuck it on exactly straight, it doesn't matter, because you're cutting it now, and so it will be just perfect. So there we are. That's my card for today. And thank you again to Ronda Wade for her inspiration in making the card and giving us all the sizes and everything. And I hope you have a go with it too. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I'll see you all again very soon. Bye.